In the toolkit, you'll see more details about other things that happen the first time a user makes a transaction or the first time they go into their account. But for now, I want to move on to the next use case, which is sending money. So again, before we talk about some of the specific choices, I'll just walk you through the flow so you get a sense of the bigger picture. So I'm pressing my account to log into my account. My phone number is already entered in the field because it's assuming that I'm going to want to go to my account, not put in someone else's. Press next. Prompted to enter the PIN. Enter the PIN, press next. Now I am in my account. I'm logged into the app. The assistant is saying, who would you like to send money to? These are the 4 people or institutions that you transact with most frequently, so these are very easy for me to discover and get right to where I need to be. But for now, I'm going to close the assistant, and I'm going to start the transaction from the very beginning. So I'm going to press send money. I am going to choose my recipient. So a few things that are happening here is it's connecting to my contact list. I could either choose to pick someone from my contact list, or I could start typing into this field. I'm going to start typing a number. It's saying it's already pulling up Ali Avan. I've sent money to him before. He's in my contact list, so it's filtering my list of recipients. I'm going to choose Ali Avan. Now potentially I have the option of sending money either to his phone or to his shop where he can go pick it up from an agent. In this example, I'm going to choose send to shop. I'm being prompted to enter the user CNIC number. If I'm not clear what the CNIC number is, I could open up the assistant. I get this explanation. If I need help with the text, I could press this button where it's going to read it out loud to me. That's not built into the prototype currently. Next, I'm entering the amount. The keyboard is already open. I'll share more about this finding, but it's already open, so I just start typing. As I'm typing, I'm seeing the fee and the total update in real time as I'm typing the number. I've typed more than what's in my current balance. I'm seeing an error message in real time. It's not waiting for me to press next before I get that error message. It's identifying you've already entered more than what your balance is. Please enter less. So I enter less. I go to next. Getting a confirmation. Do you want to send 1,300 to Ali Avan? There's going to be a 130 rupee fee, so your total will be 1,630. I say yes. Enter the PIN code. Next, create a 5-number secret code because he's going to pick it up from the shop, so this might be a requirement. I'm entering that. Very strong feedback that your money is being sent. Now the transaction is complete. I am seeing a confirmation of that. It's giving me the summary of the transaction. It's check mark to have a visual cue that it's complete. And I press OK, and now I'm back at the home screen. The assistant is telling me, success, your money's been successfully sent. You could press this button if you want to view a record of that. Otherwise, I'm right back at my home screen where I started. So I'm going to share with you a few of the elements of that and why we made those design decisions. So first, just starting with the home screen. Again, we had 2 different concepts. One was big, static, simple buttons on the home screen. The other had a lot more detail. It had actually the transaction history on there, so when people are on the home screen, they could see recent transactions, they can get other detail. Even though participants knew transaction history was really important, they did not think it should be on the home screen. They felt like it was complicating things. There's also actually some privacy concerns about that as well. People were not too comfortable with having all this information right when the app opens because they don't know who might be looking at it. So to that end, actually another feature that we have put in the prototype and we urge providers to think about is how they could hide the balance, because this might be another example of something that customers aren't comfortable having on the home screen right as they log in. So in the prototype, actually you could just press the header and the transaction, the balance disappears. But this should also be something that is in the account settings and otherwise made more easy to discover. As I said before, the illustrations are intended to be very detailed and avoid abstraction where possible so that people can easily recognize what the functionality is just by looking at the picture. The design should also the design of these icons should try to make it clear that these are buttons. These are things that can be pressed. So in the other concept, we took a slightly more complicated approach. We actually had a tabbed menu, and we were using flat, single color icons that in some ways are more modern, but are more abstract. Users really struggled to identify what these icons meant, but also just this tabbed menu, which a lot of us might take for granted, was really unfamiliar to a lot of the people we met. So having round, big buttons on the home screen, it was easy to identify what those mean, but also easy to understand that I press this and I go somewhere. Whereas the tabs were, people weren't sure how to act on that. So the assistant, before I start a flow, is offering me suggestions based on recent transactions or maybe most frequent transactions. And all the participants we met, and I'm sure all of you have data to back this up, most customers are only transacting with 2, 3, 4 people. If they're paying a bill, they're only probably paying 1 or 2 different institutions. So just something as simple as showing 4 buttons here actually will get a user to, if you pressed one of these buttons, and I could demonstrate that later, it'll actually take you through a much quicker flow. I don't have to select someone from my contact list. I'm already well into that transaction flow with that user. We made the decision to break the flow into individual discrete steps with individual screens. In the other concept, what we tested was having a long form where a user is building their transaction on a single screen. And again, this was more difficult for people to understand because there was more happening on the screen. People, I think, felt more comfortable, more confident as they were going through it step by step. And ultimately, for our more advanced users that we were testing this with, having it on individual screens didn't really slow them down. There wasn't much benefit to having on a single screen. They were able to get through it very quickly. They knew, okay, hit the amount, press next. So able to get through it very fast. So that's why we made the decision to break it up into individual screens. Integrating the phone's contact list into the process might be an obvious choice, but you'd be surprised at how many apps out there still require someone to manually enter a phone number, even if they've transacted with that person a number of times, or even if that person's phone number is saved in their contact list. So what happens in the prototype is that the keyboard automatically opens. I don't have to press that field to activate the keyboard. As soon as I start scrolling through the list, the keyboard hides. I can now scroll through all my list of contacts. The people I transact with most recently are at the top of that list. And then in this field, I could type in a name, a number, a CNIC. If there's someone in my contact list that matches that, they'll filter and come to the top. If not, I'll press next, and then I'll be prompted to enter their name or do whatever else, whatever other information needs to be provided. So related to that is showing recent recipients at the top of the contact list will just make it easier for customers to find who they're looking for, and it'll make it faster to get through a flow. And again, our research showed, and I think it's widely understood, that most customers are transacting with only a small handful of people, so how can we make it as easy as possible for them to just get to those people? In the prototype, we do the same thing with pay bill. So I choose the category of the bill I want to pay. And then I have the company that I transacted with last time at the top of that list. I'm probably not going to be paying multiple electricity bills, so once I do it once, it's always there. So these are wireframes. The visual design will be applied later, so things like color, typography, the use of graphics. But we still have a lot of recommendations we want to make as a provider approaches their visual design. One of those is making buttons as physical and as tactile as possible. A lot of our less experienced smartphone users had a lot of difficulty knowing what they could press and what they couldn't press. So as we were iterating this prototype with them, we started to add drop shadow, add gradient, add bevel to make these things feel more physical. Even though green might not be on brand for your company, people were able to identify green as, cool, I press that and I know I'm moving forward or I'm making progress. In other screens we had red to cancel, and that helped people identify with that. So, yep, how do we make things tactile and physical? And also being very intentional with your use of symbols and icons and testing those. So we had the X icon, or the X symbol, in a number of different screens. In some cases we were using it to mean cancel, which we still have in the current prototype. In other cases we were using it to mean close. So what this screenshot is from was your confirmation screen that said, congratulations, your transaction's been complete. We wanted the user to press X to close that confirmation and return to the home screen. Our participants did not associate X with close. They associated X with, I've made a mistake. So when we used it for cancel, fine, no problem. Something's wrong, I need to cancel and get out of here. But for something like close a window, that was a metaphor that just did not work for people. So that was a surprise to us, because I think that's something that all of us had just really taken for granted and assumed that anyone using a smartphone would recognize that.